You know, at some point you step away from rapping. What happens there? Like what prompts that?
You going to these shows and being out and about, like you too much in the public eye, you too accessible because of rap. Like that's the only thing keeping you in danger, basically. And a lot of rappers was dying, getting shot, getting killed, because they couldn't differentiate between the music and the streets. I'm not trying to be in the streets. I'm born and raised here. I'm growing up. I'm dealing with what's coming at me in life. I never thought of myself as gangster or any of that.
Peace, and welcome to another discussion on Cook on Monday Morning. At Cook on Monday Morning, we are building lives and make us excited about Monday morning. We believe that if you can own Monday morning, you can own the week. If you can own the week, you can own the year. And if you change your year, you can change your life. So I don't actually have any brothers, but if I had a brother, an older brother that I loved and couldn't stand, this man would be him. My first cousin, Marquis Cook, taught me a lot. Continues to be one of the closest people to me in my life. He's led a really interesting life, and he has a ton of stories to tell, some that he may not be able to speak about publicly, but great insight nonetheless on being a parent, on relationships, on what's going on in the Black community, on politics, on family. He is, I would say, the glue of the Cook family for my generation. It's an honor to know him. It's an honor to be related to him. Brother Marquis Cook, how you doing, sir?
Mr. Cook, how you doing?
You look beautiful.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about 2020. Let's start there. Let's start with 2020 and what's that been like for you?
2020 has been an interesting year for the whole world. My year hasn't stopped much or changed much. I'm essential, so I've been pretty much active throughout the whole pandemic. So it has affected me it's because it affected the whole world, but my life pretty much is been just moving along, taking it day by day.
What did you think about what happened with the presidential election? Did you expect it to go the way it went?
I mean, honestly, I was watching Doomsday Prepper. I was just preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. And I was like, they get to tripping too hard about this stupid election. Don't run up on me. So, I was waiting for the breakdown of society all the way up into, what was supposed to happen, what did happen, and what continues to happen.
In terms of like the way things went with, this is the first time in my lifetime, I think in either of our lifetimes, where we didn't know the night of, where you just like, whatever it's going to be, you just going to be ready to protect yourself. Is that, and you weren't as invested in the outcome? Were you watching it closely? Like, what were you doing?
I was waiting. I was definitely waiting. But as we see in this year, it wasn't no use in, rushing the outcome. I was just waiting for it. It wasn't going to come no sooner than it was going to come. I like to pray a lot. I don't know what everybody else do while they waiting. I was just praying, not necessarily for an outcome, but for the best outcome, in that, everybody be safe and everybody be protected. I mean, the trickle down effect of how much it actually affects us, who's president, has elevated through history. I mean, maybe as you get older, it affects you more, but you start to directly see the effects of who's in office and those policies and politics.
Yeah, I think that's true. It affects you more as you get older, or maybe as your income changes. I think like the taxes is like what you probably see most notably, unless being from San Francisco, being in neighborhoods that relied on social services, a lot of the federally funded programs were kind of present in the neighborhoods that we grew up in. I want to talk a little bit about the Fillmore, you know, because we both grew up here, and the way I grew up in the Fillmore is not the same way you grew up in the Fillmore. Like, you know, grandma raised me and my sister from the age of 10, and I had that like structured, very much church life, and you sort of got a different experience. Talk a little bit about your upbringing.
I mean, I had a structured church life too. You know, the first part of my life, I went to private school. I was in church every day with grandma. You know, had us from church to church. I think I was in church more than any of y'all was in church. Because I was doing the speeches and singing, and you know, I was headlining. I would be pop up at a church and see my name on the program, be like, "Grandma, what my name doing on the program?" Oh, you on the program, you know. So we used to really run around church to church, and you know, I had an amazing memory. I think by the time I was somewhere between 5 and 8, I ain't gonna say the exact age. I had memorized the whole "I Have a Dream" speech, and I would go like, "Oh, the kids at the churches used to be so mad because my speeches used to be so long." You know, the older people loved it. They would invite me all over the place, but like at my church, after I grew up, I talked to the kids that were my age at my church. Like, we used to hate when you used to get up there and say them long old speeches, and we go home and they be like, "Why you can't say them long speeches like Marquis?" Everybody got their little bitty speech on a piece of paper, reading it, and they parents, I'm getting up there reciting the crucifixion, and that's like, I don't know how many pages long, and I'm, you know, grandma had me with my theatrical, you know, in the plays and at the opera house. So you say we were raised differently, but we were raised similarly. And I often say I was raised right in the wrong place, you know, because when I was younger and we moved down to the Flav, I moved from my grandmother's house in with my mom, and we moved down into like the heart of Fillmore. I still would be dressed up walking to church from my house there. And the gangsters on the Ave would laugh so hard it would be uncontrollable. Like, where is you going? And I used to be looking like, going to church. That's where y'all need to be. But you know, I try to tell these kids today, like, growing up in the crack epidemic is like such a big peril. It's one of those great things like the civil rights movement, like slavery, like the crack epidemic. You know what I mean? And growing up in that era definitely took a toll on the Black community and everyone who was subjected to it in one way or another.
Yeah, I want to tease out a little bit more of like what it was like, because as you say that, yeah, that was a mischaracterization the way I framed that. And I think what happened, if something did happen, it was kind of like we switched. Like I was with my parents up until I was 10, and then I was with grandma. And then it sounds like you were with grandma
up until I was about 10.
And then you went with your mom,
and
and Uncle Michael. And so but she does tell a lot of stories. Our grandma does tell a lot of stories about you with her at church. And you definitely set the standard for everybody else also about like being active, because I was always really shy with the stage. I never really liked the stage. So, and I want to talk a little about the Black church, because as I'm leaving the school board, there's been like these elder women, Black women that come from that Baptist tradition that have been doing these like small online events for me to appreciate me and for to kind of like love on me as they say. And the church was really, because we talked about the crack epidemic, right? And we should go into that some more. But then the church was like really the place for me where I got to be celebrated. It was like grandma, I hated being on program, But like grandma put us on program. People clap for us. We had to like prepare. And no matter how bad you did, you was gonna get love. At some level, you was gonna be told that like, we value you here. So as I bring that up,
I think you developed into an eloquent speaker from where you began, and it was largely due to maybe bombing when you was younger and seeing what that felt like. You know what I mean? To know that you need to be prepared and be aware, because you can memorize the whole thing, get up there on the microphone and forget everything. And just like that, you know what I mean? It ain't about the memory, it's about the delivery too. You know what I mean? You gotta be able to spit that thing out with the pressures on, when everybody's staring at you, you know? Ain't about doing it in the mirror. It's about delivering that speech on the mic.
Yeah, and I definitely I share that story about me being on stage and bombing my "I Have a Dream" speech when I was 8.
Yeah, I never did that.
Yeah, and I told him it's okay. And I told a story about I was at a church recently. It was a mostly white church, and I told a story about you and grandma in the car, and it was a Christmas event. We're approaching Christmas, so this sounds like the right time to tell the story. And you were like, she said you used to sit on the middle console.
I did.
In the seat in the car in the front.
Yeah.
And at the church event, there was a black Santa. And you said to grandma, Grandma, that Santa was black. And she said, yeah, that's right. And then you said, oh, whoa, when's the real Santa coming? And then I was talking to a white audience, and I mentioned that because I was talking about like race and legitimacy and cultural narrative and like all this other stuff. And now I'm talking about the black church, right? Because you're talking about eloquent speaking. Like, is there anything else that comes to mind that you thought it did to benefit the community?
There's definitely a sense of family in the black church. And when I was younger, I feel like the church had a lot of opportunities for the community to, I played on basketball teams for the church. I met a lot of people, we had lock-ins. It would be like 10, 15 churches from all over the Bay Area. I feel like the church has a responsibility, and they have, to support the community and to provide an alternative to what's going on negatively in the community. They're supposed to be there to meet the needs of the people, and in true fashion, serve as Jesus did.
And so you said you grew up with the right home in the wrong place. Is that how you phrase it?
I said I was raised right in the wrong place.
Okay, so let's talk about the other part of that. So you talked about the gangsters on the corner laughing at you. Talk a little bit about just that experience and the community, the types of people in the community, what some of your earlier experiences were engaging in the community. Like who were your first friends? Who were the first people that you were like friends from?
Friends at church was my first friend.
Friends from the neighborhood.
That's why.
Friends from the neighborhood.
You said in the neighborhood?
Right.
Oh, from the neighborhood. Actually, like my first friends I met at a church event. It was at the lock-in, or at school. You go to school in the neighborhood, you get to know people that live around there. So. And with grandma, she's so well connected. A whole bunch of people just through her because she's friends with their parents or grandparents, and you just be a part of the community. Travel, you go places. Like I said, school is where you find your first friends. If you really heavy in the church, you find your first friends at church. And in the neighborhood, I think it was a family that lived down the street, and I just used to be at their house all the time. It was a bunch of kids over there. I remember I used to be at their house all the time. It was 4 of them in one bedroom. And, you know, I was an only child until I was like 12, 13. So I had a huge Victorian room all to myself with a drum set in there and bunk beds. And it was just me. And, you know, and I would spend all my time down at these people's house. And they got 3, 4 people per room living. But, you know, it was more active down there than at my house.
Where did you let's list the public schools that you went. Where'd you go to school? You talked about private school first. What was your K through 12 experience?
I went to St. Paul's first. I went to Everett, Gal. I went to Wash. I went to City College. I went Kennesaw State. Oh, I went to S.R. Martin. That was like one of the first charter schools.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about high school, and then I want to talk about rap. So first, well, I should ask, when did you start rapping?
Middle school at Everett. It was like probably like 12.
I mean, what was there like an initial experience or artist or conversation that sparked your interest and made you want to pursue that?
I think it was Slick Rick, A Children's Story. That's the first song. I memorized the whole song. And I remember one of my cousins, she was singing along, and I had never seen nobody sing along to a rap song. Like, I used to listen to the Fat Boys and Run DMC and the Beastie Boys before that on my radio, Houdini. It was only about 5, 6 rappers back then. You know, it wasn't 10 jillion rappers back then. It was just a handful. So everybody listened to the same rappers. But when Slick Rick came with that children's story, and I saw my cousin memorizing it and repeating it to me, and I did the same, you know, coming from reciting all them long drawn out speeches. This was something fun to recite, you know. So I started writing my own. When I first started writing raps in middle school, people didn't believe I was writing them, you know. You didn't write that. You didn't write that. I'd be like, yeah, I wrote that myself. So, and I remember San Quinn went to the school across the street from Everett, and we would go over there. And he was rapping way back then, too. We used to go over there and mess up the Pledge of Allegiance while they was doing the Pledge of Allegiance and get him in trouble because we went to the public school across the street. He used to hate it, but we do it down there every morning.
Yeah. San Quinn is another Bay Area rapper. For people that don't know, we'll flash a picture of his face. Talk about the Fillmore rap scene, the San Francisco rap scene, because you mentioned San Quinn. What was going on with the two of you around that time? Was it mostly just people at school? Was there anybody prominent from the area?
Back then, there was only like Huey MC and Rappin' Forte. The GLP came like a little bit after that, but it was some other, mostly all of them fell under GLP somehow, some way, but those were the initial pioneers, as far as I know, you know, shooting videos and making albums and pushing stuff out the trunk. I mean, they really set a precedent for the independent hustle.
How does it progress? So you start sort of doing like writing stuff, reciting it with friends. How old were you when you first going to record anything? What was the first recording experience?
I think I had to be maybe like 13, 14. And I had a friend, Jay Lee. He had a karaoke machine, and he would do what was called looping beats. And he would take maybe 5 seconds of a song, instrumental, and play it, record it, stop it, rewind it, play it, record it, stop it, rewind it, play it, until we had a 5-minute long instrumental. And we would put that tape in the instrumental in one side, and we would record with the microphone on the karaoke machine on the other side. And I think somebody was reciting. We don't have any of that music that from back then, but somebody said one of them lines from one of them raps that we made. You know, they would go, two turfs wide. Only two turfs are hearing the song, you know. But somebody recited one of them songs. They would go up the block, around the block, down the block, and you know, people be like, "Let me get a dub of that tape. Let me get that song," you know. And that was the first time I recorded. And we used to make a whole bunch of songs in there, jacking everybody beats. Before Ice Cube was jacking for beats, we was looping people beats and making songs. And I remember I didn't go to Great America, and they recorded a whole song in the, you know, they had a studio, like karaoke in Great America, and they was able to record a whole song without me. I didn't make the trip, but that's pretty much how I started.
Yeah. Yeah,
And people didn't like rappers back then. They like, get your rapping ass out of here, man. And, you know, everybody was gangsters. Nobody was rappers. Everybody wasn't no rappers. Period.
Right. I want to get into more of the progression, but you know, you're having a good time rapping. It seems like a natural direction from the church speeches, and people are prominent for the area. It starts to like, when does it start to like get hot? Like what happens? Is there a moment where you're in high school or before where you're like, yo, people are really getting on?
I never thought of it from a business aspect until I got older, you know. So I got out of high school till I really started taking it serious. And I don't think I was doing it because it was other people becoming successful from it. I think that's what I was always just doing. So it was just a natural progression from artists and just wanting to have more control over my career because I'm signed to this label or this person making my album, and we all just on the same level. You can't do much more for me but put me on the back burner. So it just made me want to take more control over my own career.
Right.
As I kept doing it, you know, because people had my album sitting on the shelf. People were turning down deals for me from like record labels that I didn't even know about because they was paying for my studio time. They was paying for my beats. So they, in fact, own my music, you know? So I need to do that.
As you're coming up through high school, like what is your association to school? How do you feel about school?
School is stupid.
Let's say more.
No, so I did forget one school that I went to. It was Pan African People's Organization, and it was kind of like a daycare, but it was like a woke daycare on steroids. So I went there till I was about 6, and they was in there teaching me like everything basically. So when I went to St. Paul's and I took the entrance exam, I was supposed to be going to first grade. I got everything right on the entrance exam for first grade. So they gave me the second grade one. I got everything right on there. And they only went up to 8th grade. They gave me every grade and I got all the stuff right on all of the tests for every grade. So I'm 6. I'm sitting there with my mom, who's probably like 24, 25, and she's, you know, living however she's living or whatever she's doing. But, you know, I'm sitting there with her and the principal, and they basically asked me what grade do I want to go to. And I was kind of like, I don't know, I'm 6, you know, but, you know, I know all this stuff is easy. That's what I do know. And I don't know how my life would have been different if I would have been like, well, I should just go to high school, you know, because I think about it now, like I should have just went up the street to Sacred Heart and took the test up there and see, you know, I don't know how far I could have went because they was literally teaching me like geometry and trigonometry at 6. You know what I mean? So in an effort to make a wise decision at 6, I chose to go to the second grade instead of the first grade because I felt like when they showed me the 5th grade kids, like they took me to different classes, I'm like, them kids is huge. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be in class with them huge old kids. So they showed me second grade. I was like, all right, I'll go to second grade. I went to second grade, and naturally, I was bored to death. And I would do stuff like throw pencils into the ceiling. I would turn in my homework, writing as small as I possibly could. I would make fun of people in class. I spent majority of my time capping, doodling, because I finished my work so quick. I was like, man, this is baby work. You know what I mean? And eventually I lost interest in schoolwork altogether. And I didn't try. You know, I graduated from high school with maybe like a 1.0 or something like that. I mean, I wasn't never in class. I wasn't never doing my work. I mean, in middle school, I was more interested in the social aspect of school than the academic aspect, because every time I went to class, it was dumb. And every time I would test into um, like honors English, honors math. I would test into these classes and be sitting in these classes, and they'd be looking at me like, why is he in this class? You know, little street kid, you don't know nothing. And I could do it, but I sold myself short because I missed a lot of fundamental stuff. And as you don't use stuff and you don't pay it, like I lost a lot of that stuff. So I didn't actually try until I got to the university. You know, I messed off school, middle school, high school, junior college. I just, you know, whatever to do to get by, blah, 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 blah. I ain't really tripping off this stuff because, you know I could do it. So when I got to college, I was like 30 something. I'm like, man, let me really try and see what I could really do. You know what I mean? Like, let me really try. And just like I thought, it was mad easy. You know, I think every semester that I didn't get a 4.0, I got like a 3.75. You know, I made every semester I wasn't on the president's list, I was on the dean's list. And it wasn't like I was trying hella extra hard, but I did see where I missed a lot of fundamental stuff, you know, far as grammar and punctuation, because I hadn't used it in so long and I needed a tutor for statistics. I used to be a math genius, but I've been messing around in school for 30 years. But like I said, I graduated magna cum laude though, and it was easy. And the
Yeah,
teacher used to
yeah,
be mad at
yeah.
me.
I was gonna get into that story, like not getting your first 4.0 until college, and how transformative, how watching your life as an observer, seeing the transformation that you've undergone. Because I've never gotten a 4.0, and so I remember when we were on the phone and you called me, he was like, and I had finished school, I was out of college, right?
Yeah.
When you went back full time, or I want to get, or however you structured it, I want to get into that. Because I think the real beauty of your story is the transformation, and what I hope to kind of like get into is really what it was like and what inspired the change, right?
Mhm.
Because you've always been really connected to the family, always showed up at everything, always showed up for everybody, and you had like a really stressful life. To see you today and how much you have diving into like being more intellectually stimulated, um, mental health and wellness, uh, like having a spiritual life, um, setting an example for your son. It's just like I just hope we don't miss it, this pivot. You know what I'm saying? So like because if I could say like you talked about being interested in the social aspect of school, getting a 1.0 in high school, and I feel like you're scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Like what was going on in high school in the Fillmore? Like what were you seeing? What was life like? Without getting nobody in trouble,
Yeah, I know how to speak English, but a gal was probably the roughest school. It was like Fair East Side, lean on me up in there. Like every time I went to school down there, it was like I would get into a fight or get jumped, or some turf was mad at me for something that I had done, and it was kind of like, why even go to school? Every time I come up here, it is a problem because you got all the projects packed into one. And depending on who was beefing that week, it was real active. And, a lot of people weren't in class. I rarely was in class. Grandma came up there like every day to I still wasn't in class. So I just wasn't in class. I'd be up there. I usually leave around lunch because I'd be done had enough by that time. But honestly, you went to school back in the day, that's where all the girls was at. They wasn't in the projects hanging outside. Them ain't the ones you want. You want the ones at school. So that's where all the girls that's where all the girls was at. They'd be outside for a little while, but you had to, catch them walking to and from school. But school was the club before the club. That's where everybody was at. Gangsters went to school, man. It was cracking in that thing, man. But it was always, altercations and issues that spilled over from the streets, a lot of people coming up there that don't even go there, and we used to go to other schools and get into altercations. And San Francisco in the 90s and the early 2000s, everywhere I go, because I go to a lot of cities, a lot of places out the country, and they have this image of San Francisco like it ain't official. But when you grow up in San Francisco and learn that it's more than the Castro district, that it is inundated with projects throughout the city that were very active at the time. A lot of people miss that because of the tourists, the Pier 39 and Fisherman's Wharf cable car aspect of the city. That's what they promote, Golden Gate Bridge and all that. But the gang culture in San Francisco is very real, and you could, tell by the murder rate.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about like a bunch of different sets at the school at the same time. What were the different neighborhood sets, and like how would you describe what a set is from San Francisco?
I mean, just different buildings, Had the OC projects, Paisley projects.
Right, this is all Fillmore.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Got Harbor Road over in Hunters Point. Got West Point, Sunnydale. They got Brookdale, Blythedale, Lakeview. They had the Dolph. You had Lobos. You had, it was just.
These are predominantly black youth, right, from these neighborhoods.
Right. You could drive all around the city and it would be packed, in every project. It's Trail Hill. You drive, like, it would be so many people outside, young black males just all over the city. And you don't see that anymore because due to gentrification or whatever or whatnot. But it used to be around the clock all night. At any given time, you could roll through any given set and it would be.
Yeah, I had on a brother that's older than us, and he grew up in Fillmore. He's like, his name is Eric McDonald, and he grew up in the Fillmore. And he said that I never had to order pay per view. I just had to open the window.
Oh yeah, I used to do that when I lived on Flav. That was my first cable access. When I was about 10, at nighttime, I would turn off all the lights and I would look out the window just far enough to have my eyes over. And I used to watch all the big gang fights would happen right there. People selling drugs, police raids, people was getting shot, this, that, and like you could literally just watch all night and it'd be like a TV program,
These occurrences with violence, we talked about the fighting. What were some of the, I'm sure, and there was more shooting, more people losing their lives. Like, when did that really start to happen for you with your friend circle?
Trey Lowe. He was like a martyr, I say. He was the first person that everybody knew, Trey Lowe. He lived around the corner from me. I lived on Webster and Fulton. He lived on Grove and Webster. And I didn't have no big cousins or big brothers. So he used to really look out for me when I was younger, popular, charismatic dude. He used to rap. He was a real cool dude. Go through every set, this, that, and the third. But a few people got killed before that. I remember cousin Boo Bam got killed. That was Auntie Maggie's son. That changed me. I was probably like somewhere between 8 and 10 when that happened. That was my first time seeing a young black male in a casket, and I said I'd never want to see another young black male in a casket again. That was my man's for real. He used to come pick me up from grandma's house, take me up to the Jets, let me play his video game. Like, he used to just be telling me other stuff, looking out for me. You know, my big cousin, he got killed. He was only like 18, you know. That was my first experience with it. And then the Trey B. Lowe thing, that hit so close to home for everybody. But then after that, it was kind of like the floodgates. Everybody just started getting, like, that was just like a light switch turned on. Mm-hmm. It was gun slinging after that. It just mattered when it was going to happen for you.
Yeah, you sort of talked a lot about, you know, people passing on the Pills and Patron album with the song "How Did I Make It Through."
I named over 50 people that I grew up with that got killed on that song. And like I said, when I went to Boo's funeral, I didn't go to nobody else's funeral after that. So that was kind of like my respects paid to those, because I was really close to a lot of those people that had passed away, you know.
With the Pills and Patron album, it was our first time working together and collaborating with the film, The Adventures of Nippy Swagger. It's real out here, REEL. We'll put a cover on that.
It was called Bullies with Bullies Presents Swagger is Real Out Here.
Yes. How many albums did you record that you put out for sale?
I put out 3 solo albums. I put out the movie and the soundtrack, and then I put out a project with me and Juice from Bullies with Fullies. Juice and Nip Swag put the money in the bag.
Right, yeah. And I remember recording the music video for that, Put the Money in the Bag, the Dead President inspired music video.
They pulled that off the internet. It had like 30,000 something views when they pulled it off the internet because it had a sample in it. Every time I try to post it, they pull it.
I want to talk about my experience with that project, and you know, I want to have a discussion with you about it. You know, because like with the movie that we did together, you were really the reason I got an opportunity to do anything with film, right? And now, you know, I do work in politics and consulting, and you know, this podcast thing is kind of like the only video focused production I've really done on my own since that project I did with you when I was in college, and I was like somewhere between 20 and 22. And that was prompted by a class project that I did that we used like the Usher song. And you saw that and you was like, yo, let's do some music videos.
Yeah, and I had 3 albums at the time, so I didn't know what song to shoot a video for. I got so many songs. I'm like, man, I should have been shooting videos. So that's how it turned into a movie. So I'm gonna get as many videos as I can right now. Then, you know, and I think it was like 5 music videos. Like, we gotta find a way to tie these in. And, you know, I think Streets is Watching that came out like not too far before that, and that was kind of like where I got the idea to, you know, just string the videos together with little skits and scenes in between. And I mean, we made something. It was fun making it. I will say that. Now, at the end of it, we only had like 30 minutes of usable footage of months of shooting. But there was that, you had to be there. That's one of the things. You can't really tell on screen all that went into making that movie.
Well, talk about it let's talk about how it started from your end. So do you remember the initial conversations about doing it? Like what was happening for you? How old were you? What was going on in your life? This is before Damani, right?
No, he was born in
Damani, your son, Damani.
He was born in 2004. We made that in 2006.
2006 we started, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. We did that like summer of 2006. I think it released in like 2007, like beginning of 2007.
So how old are you at the time?
I distinctly remember I was 29.
So yeah, I was in my early 20s. You were in your later side of your 20s.
Yeah.
You got your first, your son is born. And what else is happening?
Oh, I'm hot as habanero in I literally got shot right before we finished editing. We were like almost done editing, and I was like all shot up. I'm still coming to the editing sessions in and out the hospital. I'm doing very well musically. I'm traveling state to state. I was writing for a couple of magazines, Ozone magazine, Hood Star magazine. I did some stuff with Boss Status, and I did Mandatory Business. Like, I was doing well musically, but personally, there was a lot going on.
I wanted to come back to the story of you getting shot because I remember I was in school when my sister called me and told me that you had been shot. Um, but in terms of the project, you know, like I've known you all my life, but I didn't really know you. Like I didn't know who knew you, right? And the types of situations you had us in filming were new to me. They were new to me, and so I remember like and rest in power. There are people that were in that film that are no longer with us. The Jacka made an appearance
Yeah.
in that film. Historic Bay Area rapper from the Bay Area that was internationally known and beloved. Keys, Killer Keys,
Killer.
and I really liked him as a rapper. I liked his flow. And
Nah, he used to be buzzing, man. We were supposed to do a mixtape called "Shut Up, Bitch, I'll Slap Your Mama," and we never got a chance to record that. We never got a chance to record that, man. I really wanted to do that with my guy because we had such fun interactions. Both of our name was Marquis, so I would call him, "Hey, Marquis." He go, "Hey, Marquis." And he like, "What you doing, Marquis?" "Oh, nothing." And he was in a lot of street stuff too. You know what I mean? So for us to have that playful interaction, and it's really like, it's hectic. We went around heated, like it's not a game, but Get Paid was like my most fun time. I was the last one to come on to the label, but when I came on, it was like a lot of the camaraderie on we had people from every side of the city, from Lakeview to the Towers to Hunters Point. I just added an aspect from Filmo, and we had people from Oakland. I think Filthy Rich was on the label, Jet Black. Like, we had a real strong squad to like cover the Bay Area. We had some people from Richmond, and we were all working together and making music. So when I came with my energy, like, let's knock out these projects, let's shoot this movie, let's make this mixtape, let's do like, I had a lot of ideas, and it really just, it kept up a good momentum. And Juice had the fan base to take us to Portland, Seattle, Oklahoma, Denver, so it was really, going really well.
Yeah. Things were starting to really pick up. I credit that experience with me having the ability to like start and do something, like have an idea and finish the idea, right? With that initial project that I did, that summer school class at SF State, because I went to college in Massachusetts. I took a summer school class that was a film class, which has kind of prompted our collaboration, right? I had never really done a ton of stuff outside of something academic. Like, I think I sold candy in high school to go to like a scholarship program, but it was like school focused. I wanted to raise money to go to school, And so this was the first time where it was like, it was your music, and I wanted to like put a visual to it with your participation along with everybody else, right? And so it was like a collaborative experience for me that was creative, and it was really challenging in a good way. And I think the first the and, you know, the moment where I knew that like I wanted to do stuff on my own was like it was hard. It was hard working with you, you know. It was like hard dealing with people like on set, you know, acting up. But when it was over, I missed it. It was
I think
like,
I have one of those work ethics, like one of them. We finna get this done at all costs. Like, yeah, we having fun and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, we working. You know what I mean? And always wanted to make stuff that had quality to the best of my ability. So when you play my stuff next to somebody else's stuff that I might not have had a budget they have, so I'll do the best I could with what I got. But I always had a work ethic to where we finna get this done.
and of course, I was trying to get with like all of the attractive women that were anywhere near the the video shoot.
Yeah.
And we had there were these like this was when MySpace was big. Dad, this is so
Yeah.
before the Instagram models, there was the MySpace models. And I want to say like anybody that has somewhat of a following was a part of that project.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of people came through. I really, the Envious Twins came through, the
Mm-hmm.
Hood Stars, Mob Figures, Juice, Willie Hen, Demo. Like a lot of people came through, to make that project a success. Just a project.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people came through. We had a lot of people just happy to be around. Let me get in the movie. Come on, everybody who came through got in the movie. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so we put that together. That goes out. Um, what is at some point you step away from rapping. What happens there? Like what prompts that?
Our cousin told me that I was gonna have to stop rapping. And you know how somebody tell you something and you could tell that you never even thought about it before. He was like, "Cousin, that's really the only thing that's just keeping you in the game. Like, like you don't be outside no more. You don't be like, He was like, this is after I got shot, and a real friend or somebody who really care about you, they ain't gonna want to see you in harm's way. They don't care what you talking about. You know what I mean? Like if somebody really care about you, they don't want to see nothing happen to you. And he like, because you going to these shows and being out and about, like you too much in the public eye, you too accessible because of rap. Like that's the only thing keeping you in danger, basically. And a lot of rappers was dying, getting shot, getting killed, because they couldn't differentiate between the music and the streets, And I remember Fast Eddie was telling me, man, you're gonna have to choose what you're gonna do. You gonna rap or you gonna be in the streets? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm doing what I'm doing. I don't know how to differentiate the two. You know what I mean? Because I'm not trying to be in the streets. I'm born and raised here. I'm growing up. I'm dealing with what's coming at me in life. I never thought of myself as a gangster or any of that. I never was motivated by, oh, you from over there, so I'm going to try to do something. I was dealing with personal issues, and it just happened to be with people from certain places, and it would escalate to a thing where it would become a bigger issue than a personal problem because of the people that was involved. But I was just dealing with life. I mean, you take it as it come. A lot of people upset with me behind decisions that I made when I was in my 20s or in my teens. And, I was just dealing with life. I wasn't a violent person until people were violent towards me or trying to rob me or taking stuff from me and, just like really play you out of pocket. I used to be a nice guy until I seen that was a weakness in outside where I was from.
Let's talk about the night you got shot. What was happening?
It was my birthday party. You coming to my birthday party?
Yeah, you just celebrated a
was,
birthday.
yeah, it was my 29th birthday. It was the same day as the Bars Awards, the Bay Area Rap Scene Awards, and that's when I was with Get Paid. Juice and Mess had won a lot of awards. They had performed. They was playing the commercial for the movie that we did. When I walked in, the whole Bay was in there. And I had been working really hard, and I really felt like I wanted to celebrate my birthday. I wanted to celebrate my accomplishments. I wanted to celebrate the movie. I was kind of at the pinnacle of everything that I had done. But I was also hot. People, a lot of people have been shot. A lot of people have been killed. A lot of people had, like, the streets was at a real level of intensity at that time, because the Bars Awards didn't even finish. They turned the Bars Awards, start fighting backstage. There was multiple fights backstage at the Bars Awards.
Mm-hmm.
And I think somebody got shot at every after party for the Bars Awards, So, yeah, I had a birthday party, and I was advised by the whole world not to have a birthday party. And I was like, I'm kind of tired of living in a box, avoiding situations to try to stay out of trouble. Like, if it's going to be what it's going to be whatever it's going to be tonight, because I'm going to celebrate my life and my accomplishments.
Yeah, I remember seeing you in the hospital, and yeah, I must have come back from my break at school. You talked about the transition and our cousin helping spark it. There was this whole like other phase of your journey that it looks very different than sort of like this picture you're painting now, and it kind of looks like you had like a new lease. Well, I want you to talk about like the move to Atlanta, and I kind of want to get into some of your travels before we finish, because you kind of like, I don't know how much you traveled before this point, but you kind of became hella like into leaving the country. You end up moving to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Like, how does that feel? What's going on in your mind? Like, what starts to happen when you go?
Like I said, it was my 29th birthday when I got shot. Right, my birthdays are really significant. I celebrate every birthday, I promise you, just because it like all the rest of the year I'm grinding, but I stop every year for my birthday and just reflect and appreciate that I made it through another year, day by day. But I was sitting at my 30th birthday party. I remember I had a small party. I didn't throw a big party this year. I was it took me like almost a year to recuperate from being shot. Like, my hand was shattered, and I got shot in my side, and they had to take bone from my hip to restructure my hand. And I had like 5-6 surgeries on my hand. I had to learn how to walk again after they took the bone off my hip. I had like a apparatus with crutches because my hand was broke. I couldn't hold the crutches. So I really was looking banged up for a whole year, a lot of physical therapy and all this stuff. So by the time I came to my 30th birthday, I was just able to do this with my hand. For the first time. I could have full range of motion in my hand. It took a year just to do that. But I'm sitting at my 30th birthday party. They bring out the cake. It was at like the Elephant Bar on South San Francisco or something. And I had a few close friends there, probably 10, 15 people, whoever I was messing with at the time. And they brought out the cake and it said 30. And I was already feeling kind of shell shocked. And when they brought out the cake, somebody yelled, 30? And if you're 30? And I was already shell shocked because so many people I knew didn't make it to see 30. And I realized at that point, I didn't have one plan for after 30. Like, I never, thought about life after 30. You know what I mean? Who lived for 30? Like, people have been killed in my car. I done been shot. I done been through indictments and the feds is on me. And, I've been through so much stuff. It's like 30? And then I was just like, I don't know what to do, And then you know, I was working. I had been highly insomniatic since like 2002. When my friend got killed in my car, like I didn't sleep much after that, you know, for years. I was just up. That's how I was so productive with music and magazines. I had a full-time job. I graduated from City College. You know, I was doing so much stuff because I was just always up, you know. So I was sitting at work one night and I wrote a poem called Chopping It Up with God. And it was really like God was speaking to me and he said, leave. And I was like, leave what? Like, he like, leave, you know. I was like, where I'm going. And he's like, Atlanta, you know. And I'm like, Atlanta? Like, what's in Atlanta? You know, like I had been out there before a few times and I really liked it. And I would travel there often just to go shopping or, you know, visit family or like I really liked Atlanta. That was the first place I ever went that I didn't want to go home from. Like when the trip was up, I was like, I went the last year they ever had Freaknik was my first time going to Atlanta, and I kind of bumped into Freaknik on accident, and I was like, "Oh, this is the spot." And it didn't get turned out. Nobody got shot, and it was popping for blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks, cracking. Black people just having a good time. I was like, "Oh, this is where you need to be." You know, I never seen nothing like this before in my life. And I wanted to go to school out there. You know, I used to go on these college tours with a program through City College. Name escapes me right now. They're gonna be mad at me. But Dr. Augustine and them had a program, African American Retention Program, I believe it was called or something, where they would take inner city kids, mostly kids went to Bow. I went to Wash, but I would travel all the way to City College and they would give us college and high school credit. That was in my 12th grade year. And they would take us on college tours every year. They took us everywhere from New York to Atlanta to Alabama, New Orleans, Washington. Like, them was like my first traveling buzz that I went on my own without like family supervision and was just out in the city just maneuvering. I was like, oh, this is the life. You know, I moved to Atlanta. I didn't have no job. I just packed up what fitted in my car and I just left. And I believe the path that I was on in San Francisco was like a dead end, you know. And I could have stayed because of whatever else I had going on, or I could have and met that dead end, or I could have just left because the only way to stop what was going on in my life was to take myself out of the equation.
You get set up, you start to establish yourself there, and you go back to school. You go back to finish your undergrad.
Yeah, I had my AA, so
Right.
I transferred to a university there. I started off probably like as a middle sophomore or something like that. I was working at a facility, you know, I was working in group homes when I was in San Francisco. So I was working at a facility with kids and I was just working nights and I would go to school during the day. But what happened before that was like I got saved. Like I was sitting in my living room and the Holy Spirit like came into my living room and it was like a light. I had some days off of work and I was just sitting in my house and I was like, I don't even know what I like to do. Like I didn't know what to do, you know. So I started reading some books that our aunt gave me, and they were spiritual books. And I was just reading the books, sitting there. It was like, and then you know, it was an instant change. I stopped smoking, drinking, like everything, and I just it had to be a Saturday because when I woke up the next day, I just knew I was going to church. And then I didn't know what church I was going to. I was just driving around and I seen some black people going in the church and I went in and I was like listening to I always heard the Holy Spirit because I grew up in church and I always been connected to God. Even when I was in the streets, I used to like pray every day. Like I used to do the serenity prayer, you know, and I used to always pray. The first thing I would pray when I wake up in the morning is God don't let me have to shoot nobody. I was always connected. I was always grounded. I was baptized at a young age on my own recognizances, but once I got saved, it was freeing. You know, all that weight was lifted off of me. And, I was able to make a lot of progress. Like you said, buy a home, go back to school, different stuff. I was like a shepherd coach at a mega church, and um, I got engaged. It was, life was just going like it should have been going in the first place. I was able to do stuff that normal people take for granted.
You were also a huge help to me. This was like, you know, around the time when I was really struggling with my drinking, and we started conversations, and we would talk for hours. And this was like before I actually stopped drinking, but like at all these critical junctures in my life, whether it was that or breakups that like were devastating for me. you like you know um you've been there for a lot of us in the family. And so you talk about the Atlanta experience being your first before you moved there, being like the travel thing. When you started to leave the country, and you got your passport, where is the first place you visited?
Dubai.
Okay.
My
What I
first
want to
one.
try and do is like I want you to try and list all of the countries that you've been to.
I ain't that many. I went to Dubai. I went to Japan. I went to China. I went to Cuba. I went to Toronto. I went to Vancouver. Um, I mean Mexico. Uh, but I think that's pretty much it. Dubai and Abu Dhabi, my first time out the country.
And so, what prompted the interest in travel?
I knew this girl in Dubai, and she wanted to see me, and she said she would buy me a ticket to Abu Dhabi. So I was like, yeah, let me see what that be like. Why not?
Right.
I've seen all of America. I think I've been to every state in America. So many cities. You know, let me get further with it. See
Hmm.
where I can really go.
When you think about like um, healing from the experiences that you've been through, what are some tools that you picked up along the way that you think have helped deal with like the post traumatic stress of some of the stuff you've experienced?
I mean, just God, being grateful because a lot of people didn't make it through. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people been in life in jail. A lot of people done super long stretches that was like right next to me, real close to me. A lot of people just didn't make it. So I mean, I press forward for everybody that was close to me that didn't make it, or got derailed by the system, or just being grateful is one thing, and just being grounded in spirituality is another thing. Like I exude a lot of daily stuff that keeps me centered. You got to be real careful of what you intake into your brain. Like I don't do social media. I've tried it on multiple occasions. It just don't sit well with me. It's just not a positive influence in my life. Like I just rather not be on social media at all. I try to be as careful as I can with these phones and internets and all that, because it's like right now a bunch of states are suing Facebook for selling your information, and like they programming everybody. You know what I mean? Like it seems harmless, but a symptom of being woke is that you can see everything and you take nothing for what it seems. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Every little thing that you intake into your brain, whether it be by accident or carelessness, affects your thought process in your life.
Hmm. Hmm.
All the violent stuff you watch on TV, all the it's just crazy. They see. ideas into your mind, and they seem harmless, but it becomes normal.
We're all being finessed, to be distracted and to be seeking and to believe that, we're not enough, looking
And
for
they close you out.
validation.
If you're not tapped in with technology, you closed out on so much information. You know what I mean? The less you use technology, the more shut out of society you become.
I started this thing. I was reading this book called The Way of the Superior Man, and I actually just gave it to our cousin David. I told him to skim it for a few days because I want it back. And
I said
said,
I read some of that. I didn't finish it, but I did read a lot of that book.
okay, yeah. Well, it prompted this, like, it didn't say this in the book, but it prompted me to do this digital fast. And I tried it for the first time last week, where I just like didn't touch any technology for the entire day. And I also wasn't allowed to read, like no sweets, no distractions, right? Nothing to escape, no sex, like nothing that would like allow me to seek some type of escape. And it was like a really hard day, you know?
Mm.
It was a really hard day. And so it's something that I want to continue to practice over the weekend, like turning off everything. If we make a plan before the day, I'll show up. But I'm not gonna have my phone on me I'm running late. That's kind of like how I'm going about doing it. I want to move into the rapid fire because I want to let you get to the rest of your evening.
Yep,
Do you meditate?
on occasion.
What's one book you would recommend?
The Principle of the Path by Andy Stanley.
Do you have a motto?
Just do it. I jacked it from Nike, but I've been using it all year. Just do it.
How do you define success?
I know it's a quote. I might butcher this quote, but it's something to the effect of the measure of a man is not by what he accomplished, but by what he's overcome. So I believe success is uh, more about the obstacles that you overcame to get to where you are, more than the things that you accomplished.
What is your idea of fun?
To relaxing most of the time, laying on the beach in a cabana with a drink and a bad chicken. You feel me? Listening to the ocean on a not too hot day, not too cold day. Shoot, that sounds good right now.
What's one personal weakness you can forgive in someone?
Ignorance, you know, because not knowing is just like not knowing. A lot of times, if you don't know, you can't be responsible for what you don't know. But if you know and you choose otherwise, that's hard to forgive. But if you don't know,
Last and final question. The house is burning, all of the loved ones and pets are out. What's three things you grab?
grab my Glock, grab my Air Maxes, and I'm grabbing a coat.
This is Monday morning, the final discussions. This is my first cousin, a man I love a lot, Marquis Cook. Thank you for sharing your story, your insights. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Peace. And thank you for listening to another episode of Cook on Monday Morning. At Cook on Monday Morning, we are building lives that make us excited about Monday morning. We believe that if you can own Monday morning, you can own the week. If you can own the week, you can own the year. And if you change your year, you can change your life. Thank you again for listening. And thank you for subscribing. Please do so if you haven't already. I'm grateful for your support. Please share the podcast with a friend. Also, help us grow this community of doers. Please take a minute to also rate and review the podcast on Apple. Leave a comment on YouTube. It really helps people hear about and find what we're doing here. If you're interested in starting your own podcast, I wrote an article. It's called How to Start a Podcast During the Pandemic. You can check the article in the description box if you want to see how I started this one, the equipment we use, some book recommendations that'd be helpful to consider. Check that out when you get a chance. Cook on Monday Morning is a product of the Luther Harris Holding Company. We work in partnership to create solutions that drive impact. We build strategic partnerships between businesses and government. We recruit diversity talent into high impact roles, and we help companies drive impact in the places where they do business. If you'd like to learn more about that, feel free to email me, info@stevoncook.com. I'd like to thank the people that make our podcast possible. Our videographer, David Topete. Thank you, David. Our copy editors, Fernando Encico Marquez and Devin Sketchinger. Thank you both also. I get up every morning with the intention to create value and showcase my love to the people that keep our cities moving. You are our teachers, garbage collectors, school lunch workers, custodians, social workers, fire workers, police officers, EMT workers, bus drivers, and nurses. You are our employers, the people helping create jobs and keeping our economy growing. You are our gig workers, stocking our shelves, driving our ride shares, delivering our food. To all of you, this podcast is for you. You live in places like San Francisco, Oakland, Richmond, Antioch, San Mateo, Los Angeles, Dallas, Houston, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Miami, Orlando, the Carolinas, Virginia Beach, Milwaukee, Kansas City, Cleveland, Detroit, Harlem, Brooklyn. Shout out to all of our listeners also on the continent and around the world, Nigeria, Ghana, Jamaica, Kenya, and Ethiopia. To all of you, this podcast is for you. This message is touching the world and will continue to do so because of you. Until we meet again. Peace, and we out.